Mitch Daniels, almost out of nowhere, the governor of Indiana, shows up at CPAC. He's introduced by George Will. He's promoted as this great candidate for president. Of course, he says, all right, you socialists and conservatives, park it and sit down. And that's not key right now. What's key now is the fiscal stuff. Oh, okay. So in his state, the Republicans pass a bill in the House to bring Indiana back to the 21st century and make it a right-to-work state. Because businesses are moving, even overseas, into right-to-work states. Now Daniel says, no, park that one, put that one aside too, we don't want to deal with it. Oh, well, let's see. So park the conservative social stuff. In other words, traditional morality. Park that. Park the right-to-work stuff. In other words, human resource issues. What else should we put aside for the next great Republican nominee for president? What else should we ignore? The Indianapolis Star. Governor Mitch Daniels signaled this afternoon Republicans should drop the right-to-work bill that has brought the Indiana House to a standstill for 2 days and imperiled other measures. See, a number of the Democrats skipped town again to try and prevent a quorum. So, all along the country, what we ought to do is we need to have people track down all these Democrat politicians who are on the lam. You know? All right, we found and why are they all going to Illinois? But the governor there, this Quinn, what's he, a crazy left-wing loon? Apparently so. So Illinois has become a sanctuary state for on-the-land elected Democrat officials who are shutting down their governments. They've shut down, to some extent, the government in Wisconsin. They've shut down, to some extent, the government in Indiana. And they're in the sanctuary state of Illinois, which not only welcomes illegal aliens, but welcomes lily-livered Democrat officials. But Mitch Daniels, he's standing right up there, very Reagan-esque, isn't he? He's got other priorities, and he can't chew gum and walk at the same time. He warned his party late last year against pursuing the so-called right-to-work legislation they write. Well, he agreed with it philosophically. He said it was a big issue that needed a statewide debate. Oh, yes. We don't quite get it, do we? Let me tell you a little bit about his background, because all the phonies are out there pushing him. He's a lifelong, or was, staffer to Lugar, who's about as rhino as they get. Was Lugar's chief of staff. He also ran the Republican Senatorial Committee under Lugar. Then he went to the White House for about 28 months as Director of Political Affairs over there under Ronald Reagan. Unless you be deceived, he was not a Reaganite. It was the second half of the Reagan administration when people were leaving. Just like this Duberstein, who was chief of staff to Reagan for 10 months after being deputy to Howard Baker. He runs around, well, right here. No, you don't. He's not a Reaganite. Daniels isn't a Reaganite. They didn't work for him in 76 and 80 in his campaigns or anything of the sort. Duberstein came in with Jake Javits. Mitch Daniels came in with Lugar. Stick with me on this. He was Bush's first OMB director. And when he was OMB director, I read you a quote which I will paraphrase to you, in which he said, look, you know, we got to do what we got to do. Balancing the budget is an important thing, but not right now. This is a guy that always is not right now. We can't do these conservative things right now. I've got an agenda. I'm very busy. Not right now. Now, he may be good for Indiana the way Christie may be good for New Jersey. But that's not good enough. Good enough is an articulate, confident, conservative voice who, whenever confronted with tyranny, speaks of liberty, who, whenever confronted with lawlessness, speaks of the Constitution. He doesn't compartmentalize issues, because that tells me that he's not a Reaganite, that he's not a conservative. We don't compartmentalize liberty. We don't compartmentalize the Constitution. We don't have all these categories that these politicians have, you and me. This is the time for leaders, for statesmen, to take on the big issues. This is why people are so excited about Governor Scott Walker of Wisconsin. He's strong. He's confident. He's articulate. He's not trying to abuse anybody. He's gratuitous in his policies, but he's not ducking either. He's on the move. And ladies and gentlemen, even if he gets everything he's trying to get, he can still, in the next election, elect a Democrat in the Democrat legislature and reverse everything he's done, which we hope won't happen. And yet, every time we conservatives try to move the ball ever so slightly, that is really all that's happening in Wisconsin. Every time we try to move the ball ever so slightly, we're brutally attacked, or they attempt to marginalize us, or ignore us, and mischaracterize our motives. That's not going to work anymore. It's just not. Too many people in this country are adversely affected by these policies, these long-standing left-wing policies. And one of the important things is, as we get closer and closer to the presidential campaign, that we're able to put little check marks next to people and little X's next to people based on how they conduct themselves when the heat is on. Mr. Daniels, you get a little X. You're too weak. You don't see the full horizon. You're ready to battle on some turf, but on way too much, you're surrendering the turf. You should be speaking out in defense of your fellow governor from Wisconsin, and you're not. You should be encouraging exactly what the legislature is doing in Indiana, to attract more and more enterprise and create more jobs. But you're not. That's why you're not presidential. Like I say, you may be a great governor. I don't know. I don't live in Indiana. But I do live in the United States. And you get a little X next to your name.